and gentlemen, hello and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. I'm your host, Maysa Doumas. To the headlines. On the occasion of the 16th Extraordinary Summit of the African Union, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, submits a report that addresses terrorism in Africa. USM Khanchla and Mouloudia of Al-Bayad honored by the President of the Republic following their progress to the First Division Football Championship. Thousands of Moroccans take to the streets to demand their legitimate rights, condemn normalization and the ongoing brutal exactions. Those were today's headlines. First in our news, on the occasion of the 16th Extraordinary Summit of the African Union, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, submitted a report that addresses terrorism in Africa and explains the factors that contributed to its spread on the regional and international levels. The report stresses the need to place the issue of terrorism at the top of Africa's priorities in terms of peace and security and put in place a series of measures likely to strengthen the individual and collective capacities of the African countries. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, recalled the importance of setting up an African list of terrorist individuals and entities, an African arrest warrant, as well as a special AU fund to combat terrorism. The President called for consolidating the mechanisms and institutions already in place in order to fight terrorism and violent extremism. This message was read out by the Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Ramtan Amamra. Let's have a listen.
Excellencies, from my country's experience, we have also learned that as important as it may be, defeating terrorism by solely relying on military means will always be incomplete, as this scourge will always find a way or another to re-emerge. Our collective response should therefore rely on a coherent and holistic strategy that should be deployed both upstream and downstream.
And on the sidelines of the summit, the Foreign Affairs Minister, Ramtan Amamra, held talks with the presidents of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, Congo, Denis Sassou Nguesso, and Niger, Mohamed Bazoum. He also conveyed to them the greetings of the President of the Republic and his will to boost bilateral cooperations with the African countries. Amamra also held talks with his counterparts from Angola, Tanzania, Tunisia, Mauritania, Burundi, and the Sahrawi Arab Republic on bilateral relations and regional issues. Representing the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, the advisor to the President of the Republic in charge of external relations, Abdelhafid Allahum, honored the teams of USM Khanchla and Mouloudia of Al-Bayad following their progress to the First Division of the National Football Championship. The ceremony took place in the International Conference Center in the presence of the Youth and Sports Minister Abdelrazak Sabgag. Players of both teams of US Khanchla and MC Al-Bayad hailed the President's lofty move meant to encourage youth and athletes to ensure their survival in the high-level competitions. More on the ceremony with Leticia Satqawi.
A new embodiment of the government's support for the youth generally and the athletes especially. Both US Khanchla and MC Al-Bayad were honored by the President of the Republic for their achievement, which is progress into the First Division Championship. This timely ceremony was highly appreciated by those who were behind this historic achievement. We thank the President of the Republic for this honoring and this ceremony that reflects the support for young people and grey zones. We thank the President of the Republic for the honoring of our team, Mouloudia Club of Al-Bayad. We hope to be up to the expectations next season. The champions of the Eastern Group, Khanchla Union, and after an absence of 46 years from the Super League, comes to meet the fans' expectations. The congratulations from the President of the Republic and his financial reward to them is a form of support for the team that plans to stay long in the First League. This historical honoring, which I think is the first of its kind for our team Khanshla Union, made all Khanshla citizens even more happy. We thank the President of the Republic for this ceremony that is special for the Khanshla province. For their part, Muludiya Club of Al Bayad aren't any less happier with their fifth time progress into the first division. Their presence in this ceremony is a proof of the interest the authorities attach to football and their support for the youth to motivate them further. This is a historical day, and the honoring of the President of the Republic is a medal we wear proudly. This honoring for both teams is now a further motivation for the other teams to compete even harder, especially with the financial rewards they were gifted. The guidelines of the President of the Republic were to honor and provide aid for progress in teams. We hope to further support Algerian football. 30 million dinars and a bus for the team transportation. The reward of the President of the Republic is a considerable impetus to help the two teams survive in the high-level competition next season.
The national oil and gas company Sonatrach and the Chinese group Sinopec signed an output sharing agreement on Zarzatine area located in Illizi province. The ceremony took place in the presence of the Energy Minister Mohammed Arqab and the representative of the Chinese ambassador to Algeria. Still in the energy field, the Ministry of Energy and Renewable Energies organized a seminar under the slogan for a transfer of energies with citizens in the presence of the Minister of Communications Mohammed Bouslimani. Leticia Sidqawi has more.
Facing the collapse of oil and gas resources, Algeria is moving towards renewable energies, mainly the solar one. However, the success of this transition requires the input of experts and help of media. There are three important partners, public authority that need to create an informative, coherent speech aimed to raise awareness that needs to be popularized. The partners are schools through programs and also through setting the example. Additionally, there are mosques and last but not least, the media. Sharing this approach that concerns renewable energies as part of our future guarantees a smooth, sustainable transition towards clean energies adapted to the needs of citizens. The citizens' place is at the core of the development because all the development processes are to improve the citizens' lifestyle, especially in our Great South and on the bordering areas and remote areas, which is the main interest in the public guidance. Gives great importance to, relies mainly on horizontal approaches, a consultant vision, and a coordinated participatory work with many participants. Algeria, with its political will and natural resources, is capable of overcoming the energy's transition challenge with the adherence of media and civil society while implementing the energy programs.
The lofty itinerary of the Algerian matchless leader, Emir Abdel Qadir, is at the core of several cultural activities being held to shed more light on the hidden sides of the future of the Algerian modern state. The full story with Najah Tayyar.
It is a complimentary look and a detailed presentation by the Algerian archives that Canal had presented the story of life, the fight, the hope and the tolerance of Emir Abdel Qadir. The lecturer of this exhibition stated consistently the importance of the transmission of the story of this great leader. I wanted to make everyone know that Emir Abdel Qadir is not an ordinary man. He was not a person we can compare to anyone. Emir was a great man. Everyone who had written and spoken a word has developed the humanism, the great tolerance and the highest spiritual aspects of this matchless leader. A part of the day devoted to the memory, there was a conference debate for both French and Franco-Algerian audiences. This conference is taking place ahead of two other important events, namely the Mediterranean Games in Iran and the independence anniversary of Algeria. The event was prolonged on a boat that denotes the quality, professionalism and hospitality of the crew that was fully at the disposal of the organizers to ensure the success of this important and timely meeting.
The Spanish Congress rejected for the second time the Prime Minister's decision and sent a clear message that international law cannot be violated. Manal Ammari.
The Spanish Congress called for the implementation of the United Nations resolutions that will allow the Sahrawi people to exercise the right to self-determination. The decision of Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez to join the so-called autonomy plan of the Makhzen for Western Sahara has been rejected for the second time in less than 2 months. The Spanish parliament maintains its position on Spain's historical line, insisting on the decolonization process of Western Sahara as part of the UN's resolutions. It should be noted that on April 7, 2022, Spanish parliamentarians rejected the change in Madrid's position in favor of Morocco and accused the head of the government of abandoning the historical neutrality position regarding the conflict. They also denounced Pedro Sanchez's one-sided and illegal U-turn concerning the conflict in Western Sahara. They also called for a position correction in support of the UN's resolutions that will allow the Sahrawi people to exercise the right to self-determination, calling the position defended by Pedro Sanchez as betrayal of the Sahrawi people. They demanded the transmission of a clear message to the King of Morocco that the sole framework to be defended by Spain is the international legality, emphasizing meanwhile the inalienable right of the Sahrawi people to self-determination.
Thousands of Moroccans will take to the streets to demand their legitimate rights, better living conditions and condemn normalization and brutal exactions. More details with Rania Al-Bahri.
The socio-economic situation keeps deteriorating in Morocco for weeks or even months, and in several cities of the country. The calls for demonstrations are multiplying. Several marches and sit-ins are regularly organized by the disgruntled population, who loudly shouts their anger of a government that seems to be suffering from chronic deafness and which perfectly rules of a blind policy, claiming the improvement of their living conditions, the reduction of socio-economic injustice, as well as the fight against corruption and the tax on public freedoms. Moroccan citizens denounce the miserable quality of life at a time when the Makhzen continues to accumulate fortune and to strengthen its alliance with the Zionist entity on all fronts. A critical situation which has outraged the Moroccan Social Front to call for a massive participation in a national popular march. An appeal that faces a repressive regime which tries by all means to stop intimidation decisions, to ban arbitrary arrest and detention of the population to demonstrate. Activists have spared no effort. A protest is also planned on Sunday in Casablanca ahead of massive demonstrations that will be organized across the country.
Let's now have a listen to the statement made by a member of the Moroccan opposition, Said Issa.
It is our duty to put an end to whatever is happening in our society. It is time to put an end to corruption and organized crime. Our women have no value. They became easy prey to sexual tourism. Organized crime has spread dangerously like wildfire in our country, along with prostitution, drug trafficking, and pedophilia. We must put in more effort to fight against all these scourges that spread in the Moroccan society. I'm calling on all associations, non-governmental organizations, and civil society to definitively put an end to what is happening in Morocco. The only solution is to review and to carry out a comprehensive reform at the level of all sectors.
Amnesty International called on the Makhzen regime to honor its obligations under international human rights law and put an end to the torture and violent practices of women activists. The video. A conference was held at the Algerian national television on Abdel Karim, the Rif region's. Several historians attended the conference and lofty career of the leader of the resistance movement against Spain and France. And now for the western province of Tlemcen to discover the flourishing by their poultry industry, essential daily activity of the region. Rania once again.
This small village situated in the middle of the mountains, the craftsmen collect the clay every day for pottery. We're the first layer that when it rains the clay falls and double in volume. It's a chance to have clay at our disposal. After collecting materials, these craftsmen head directly for their workshop with a large. These craftsmen make decorative objects and kitchen utensils. Thanks to the experience that I acquired, I managed to use my hands to measure the necessary quantity of clay, a know-how transmitted from generation to generation that the Baidar women to preserve through a short-term training courses open to general public. As you can see, these drawings represent islands and mountains. It also represents the sea. There are other drawings which symbolize agriculture. These craftsmen expect the state's help and assistance to better represent Algeria as they did in the past and won several awards in different national and international.
That was it for our news edition. Thanks for tuning in to our program.